Hello and welcome to Threefold Herbal Healing. I'm Herbalist Leo. I help people who are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, people who are struggling with chronic conditions, grow their health from the roots up. But before I was a clinical herbalist, I was a biodynamic herb grower. For longer than a decade, I experimented with seed starting in my greenhouse every spring. In the fall, at the end of the season, I always felt so exhausted, burned out, and I really craved the rest of wintertime. If you ask me in the fall, I could never imagine starting the cycle all over again. I just wanted to rest. But in April, it started to itch in my hands. I really longed to dip them in the soil to feel the aliveness of soil. The vibe in the greenhouse in the spring when we would start seeding was that of hope and anticipation. And I bet all farmers around the world feel the same. There is a lot of hope and a lot of anticipation for the beginning of the new season. Now that I am no longer a farmer and I don't have a greenhouse, I just bought a cold frame. And you can look cold frame. I bought it from Amazon. Not that I love Amazon, but that's where I bought it. But it's like a small box with glass or fiberglass windows that work like you can put a couple of trays on it and it works like a greenhouse basically. So I bought a cold frame and on Saturday I plan to start my seeding. If you're watching it and it's not today, just know that I'm recording it in mid-April. So for me, mid-April in New Hampshire is when I start seeding now. So there are a couple of factors that play into successful seed starting and germination in the beginning of the season. One of the things is timing, choosing when to start your seeds. So when you decide when to start your seed, you want to factor in the weather where you live and the types of seeds you are planting to start. Seeding too early or too late can ruin an entire season. Now, I live in New Hampshire. So where I live, the last day of frost is somewhere around the end of May. June 1st is the official day, but a week before, a week after. Therefore, I don't transplant plants outside of the greenhouse or the cold frame before that. The saying, as above, so below, is a saying that is kind of associated, or we believe we got it from the alchemist. As above, so below. It applies to seedling too. If the aerial parts of a plant are well developed with leaves and stems, that means that the roots are well developed too. If you have a well-developed plant sitting in a small cube or a small cup in a tray, the plant will suffer because the roots don't have where to keep on growing and they don't get enough nourishment from such a small amount of soil. So if you can't transplant this plant, it's going to suffer. So seeding too early and having a big plant that waits for the last day of frost in your greenhouse, or cold frame, or in your kitchen is not good for the plant. It doesn't serve anything. Seeding too early means that your plant will be ready to be transplanted before your garden can offer optimal growth conditions. So you need to think about it when you plan when you want to start seeding. Perennial seeding seeds generally take longer to germinate. So I used to start, and I still do that, I start all my perennial herbs from seeds in early April because perennial plants take a long time to germinate. And it takes a lot of patience and trust that eventually they start to germinate. So you need to keep on watering them and checking on them. And it can take 3 weeks, months, and even longer. A lot of time it says on the seed package how long is the average um, germinating time. And with perennial, plan on a long germinating time and be patient and just take care of them. Don't leave them, don't give up on them. Annual herbs like tulsi and calendula are easy and fast to germinate. So within a couple of days, you can start seeing something coming up there. So I start them only in May, maybe even in the second week of May. No rush with them. They will be ready in the beginning of June. You can check out really your seed packages. It's usually written down there. It's noted how long the germination time is and plan accordingly. Don't do it too early, don't do it too late. As a biodynamic farmer, and I was a biodynamic farmer, I worked with the biodynamic calendar. So I seeded different crops in different days. The biodynamic calendar follows the moon movement in front of the 12 zodiac constellation as guideline for timing for tasks in the farm. So that include seeding, transplanting, harvesting. It's all have to do with the journey of the moon through the zodiac. So let's take a look at how it's done. The 12 zodiac constellation were associated with the four elements. Earth, water, air, and fire. Each element in turn is related to part of the plant. So the earth element is associated with roots, no brainer. When the moon is in Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, all of them are considered earth signs, it is a good time to seed and harvest roots. Astragalus, licorice, marshmallow root, what other roots did I have? Horseradish. I didn't actually see that, but spring yellow flower, dandelion burdock roots. The leaves part of the plant are associated with the water element. When the moon is in Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, it is a good time to seed and harvest leaf crops like tulsi, sage, or thyme. The flower part of the plant is associated with the air element. When the moon is in Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, it is a good time to seed and harvest flowers such as calendula and chamomile. I have to say that harvesting flower is something that I did every day or every other day. And it's really hard to squeeze it into the biodynamic calendar because you might have a hair day today and another hair day in 3 or even 10 days. So you can't really harvest according to biodynamic calendar when it comes to flowers. We did try to do it with flowers like broccoli, but not with herb flowers like calendula and chamomile. Fruits are associated with the fire element, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And it's like the perfect herbal fruit that is associated with fire is cayenne pepper, as an example. So I would seed and transplant peppers on a fire day. Watering. How do you know how much to water? Not too much, not too little. Greenhouse, and that's what I'm saying, true to a greenhouse, it's also true to a cold frame because it's about the same environment. So the greenhouse environment is typically hot and dry. If you work in a greenhouse, you feel hot and dry there. We used to water the plants daily, sometimes even twice a day, depends on the weather. The best way to know how much you need to water your plant is by touching the soil. Plants usually don't like their feet to stand in water, so they don't want to stand in soggy soil. But they also don't like dry soil. So you want to aim at something like damp. When watering your plant, you want a gentle steam. You want your water to imitate rain or the rain of your shower head, something that is gentle. If you use the strong stream of hose, you might break the tender stems of seedlings. So you really want a very gentle shower water. How do you decide if you want to direct so in blocks or in trays that had block like those cube or in flat trays? The decision of where to start your seeds depend on what the plant required to thrive. Chamomile like to be sowed late in the fall directly in the ground. So you prepare the ground, you sow chamomile, you cover it with lightly with a little bit of compost and soil and let it germinate in the spring. So it needs this wintering out in the cold. Calendula, astragalus, and licorice seeds are relatively large. It's very easy to seed them in blocks in those trays that are divided to small blocks. Tiny seeds like thyme, sage, and hyssop are hard to start in block because they are really hard to be picked one by one. They come like a powder. It's very hard to collect one and put it in the cube. So you want to fill a flat tray with potting soil, make a long indent with your finger, and spread the seeds slowly in the indent and then cover lightly. Now, if you start your seed in a flat tray, you will most likely need to thin them when they germinate and grow. So you will have a lot of them very close to each other, and you will want to seed them and maybe even move some of them to blocks in the future. How to choose your potting soil. So when we had our farm, we were lucky to mix our own potting soil with compost from our goats and our chickens. We just created the blend ourselves. Now that we don't have farm animals, I buy organic seed starting soil. Commercial soil mix containing peat moss, vermiculite, and perlite work well. A soil mix reduces the risk of soil-borne disease and pests, ensuring a healthier start for seedlings. Soil mix is also like seed starting soil mix is especially light and fluffy, allowing young roots to establish easier than packed soil. So when you make your you put your soil in blocks in those trays, you want to push on them, but not too much. You don't want to pack them too much because you want you want everything to be packed, but not packed too much. So there is some the roots can actually grow into the soil. You want to avoid starting seeds in soil from your garden because the soil in your garden is heavy with pests and weeds. So you want healthy soils for the baby. Sunlight and temperature. Seeds requires about 12 hours of sunlight. You can use germination lamps. They work, they are great. They have the right wavelengths. I prefer to use the cold frame. I can put it outside on my porch where I know they will get a lot of sunlight. The seedling also like temperature above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So, don't start your seeding in March, unless the only seeds that we started early in February actually were onions and leeks, because that family really takes a lot, the Liliaceae takes a long time to grow enough to be transplanted outside. So we would start them in February in order to transplant in June. You can start your seedlings in your home next to a south-facing window in cold frame or in a greenhouse. So there's special consideration and terms that some seeds need. Some seeds want something that is called cold startification, cold treatment. It's necessary for some perennials. It's kind of mimic winter. It's the same as seeding outdoor in the fall, chamomile, in order for it to germinate in the spring. So with plant like Arnica as echinacea, what I used to do is mix the seeds with potting soil, put it in a plastic bag, and put it in the refrigerator for 2-3 weeks, and then spread the potting soil in a tray and then water it and let it germinate. I have to say that echinacea is somewhat easy to germinate. Arnica is very, very hard to germinate. At the end, I actually ordered plant because germinating Arnica from seeds was very, very hard. Another thing that some seed need is scarification, which means that you scratch or you sand the seed because the outer layer is so thick that is very hard for the seeds to germinate. Some of the seeds that are hard to germinate and need this sanding are astragalus and licorice. Licorice, again, is a hard one to germinate. I did germinate licorice again, but while astragalus, I would seed 70 something and get 50, with licorice, I would seed 70 and get maybe 20. I did get them, but it's hard. It needs a lot of love on the starting stage, but also on the growing. Licorice, I lost a couple of first and second year crops of licorice because you need to take especially good care of it. Soaking. Some seeds love to be soaked overnight the day before you sow them. Seeds like basil and parsley are some of those seeds. So what I would do is really read the instruction of each seed on the package that comes. Now, special gadget, like I said, you can use grow lights, full spectrum grow lights. They are very different from fluorescent or standard LED because they have a wide spectrum of wavelengths, and they imitate the wavelength of the sun. I'm not using it. I'm transplanting outside in sunlight, and I think it's energy efficient. I bought the cold frame, and that's for not a lot of money relatively, and I can use it again and again and again, and I don't need to spend the energy. I do use heat mats, those. Because I sit outside, I use heat mat with thermostat. They are under the trays, and they ensure a consistent soil temperature. So it's not just the protected environment and the heat of the sun, there is heat coming from under. That's important, especially for crops like tomatoes and basil that really love warmth in the soil. And one important thing is, before you start the season and after you end the season, wash with warm water and soap all your equipment, especially your trays, because you don't want disease that, from last year soil, from last year plants to contaminate this season. So you want to be, it is like a nursery for babies. You want to keep everything really clean so your equipment is kept in good shape, in good condition, but also that your seedlings are healthy. I do believe that everybody has a green thumb, and you can learn by doing. When I started my farm, I had no clue. I read a book about herbs for the nervous system in the winter. And in the summer, I just ordered seeds for all the herbs they mentioned in the book, and I made the beds and I started it. All you need to do is jump into the cold water and you are going to be fine. So you improve as you go. And the most important thing when it comes to seed starting and growing herbs and growing vegetables is to have fun. So I hope you will enjoy it. I hope this helped you um, start your season in a good way. If you have questions, really, it's all practical, and I have so much experience. Leave them in the comments. I would love to answer them. Have a great season. Have fun in the garden and grow abundance. Bye.